Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everybody. So this is our second lecture for the course Introduction to Linguistics. As you can see, it will be about animals and the human language. For the lecture elements, we'll have a short introduction. We talk about communicative and informative signals, displacement, arbitrariness, productivity, cultural transmission, duality, and talking to animals. Well, most of the time we hear that some people talk to animals, or as if animals react to what people say. Okay, we know that we are sure that animals communicate with other members of their species. Okay, but the question is it possible that any creature could talk to human beings? Or does human language, okay, have properties and characteristics that make it so special, so unique, that it is quite unlike any other communication system, and hence unlearnable by any other creature? In another way, is it is human language special language that is impossible for any other creature to learn it or produce it? And by consequence, is it possible that human beings and animals communicate between each other? That's what we'll see in this lecture. So, communicative and informative signals. Certainly, everything we do, okay, can be considered as a signal. Okay, it means as an information to transmit. Okay, or something to transmit. So, for informative signals is a behavior that provides information, usually and intentionally. So, for example, looking at me, hearing my accent, certainly you will get an information from what you hear or from what you see. You will see that I'm not a native speaker, maybe from my appearance or even from my accent. So this information, or the information you get, okay, is not intended by me. I do not mean to communicate, to give you this information, okay? While on the other hand, communicative signals can be considered as a behavior used intentionally to provide information. Okay, it means I say something in particular. Okay, I want to buy something from you. So with this sentence, okay, I ask directly, okay, for something, for an information, okay, or I may ask you, is it possible that I attend your class? So in this case, I ask for an information. So this is an information I give intentionally. I want to give you this information. Okay. So on the other hand, animals most of the time, okay, do not intend, okay, to communicate any information, okay, unintentionally. Okay, so they do not want to say they do not express things they do not want to express. If they want to express something, so they react. They produce some sounds. They make some gestures. Okay, so from this point, if we want to talk about the distinction, the difference between human language and animal communication, we should certainly think about their potential as means of intentional communication. Okay, so human beings can can produce or can transmit, okay, information unintentionally, as well human beings can transmit information intentionally. It means they mean it. Okay, they want to transmit that information. Okay. So for the coming parts, we are going to see the characteristics of human language. Okay, and at the same time, we'll try to compare it to the characteristics of, if we may so, animal language or animal system of communication. Okay, so the first characteristic, okay, or the first property of human language is displacement. And displacement is a property of language that allows users to talk about things and events not present in the immediate environment. So to explain this is that people can talk about things, okay, which are not present now. I can talk about what happened yesterday. I can talk about what I am going to do this weekend, in the future. So I can talk about past events. I can talk about future events. This characteristic, okay, is not present in the communication system of animals. Most animals lack this property, do not have this property. They cannot talk about future events or past events. The sounds we hear from animals mainly deal with the present moment and the present environment, what surrounds them. Okay, so concerning, some people say that some animals have this property in their system of communication to a certain extent. Mainly, here we are with the bee example, or the bees example is mentioned. Bees try to transmit messages to their species, okay, to the creatures of their species, about food. A bee can transmit a message to its species about food not around them but far from them. Okay, but another experiment has been conducted on bees, and it was the result of this experiment proved that bees can have the displacement property, but it is limited. How is it limited? In that the bees cannot transmit a message about food which is not related, okay, to horizontal, okay, distance, because bees look for food in a horizontal way. Most of the time they will not find food in a vertical way. So they provided food for the bee guide, if we may describe it so, in a very high building. And when the bee guide went back to the other bees and wanted to transmit the message about the place of that food, that bee was unable to transmit. And this experiment proves that the displacement property in the bee communication is very limited. Another characteristic or another property about human language is arbitrariness. Arbitrary means it doesn't apply any rule. It's not regulated, okay? It's not organized by rules. Arbitrariness is a property of language describing the fact that there is no natural connection between a linguistic form and its meaning. Okay? So if I say this is a book, so what is the relation between the word book and the book itself? There is nothing. Well, that's why we find different names from one language to another. In English, it is a book. It is said to be a book, okay? And in Arabic, for example, it is said kitab. So what is the relation between these two words, okay, and what it means? Okay, it could have been possible that we call the mouse, okay, book, and the book mouse. So what made the name of this entity as it is and not something else? There is no rule to call such a thing by its name. Okay, the aspect of the relationship between the linguistic science and the objects in the word is described as arbitrariness. Okay, there are some words, it's true that there are some words in different languages that imitate or echo the sounds of objects, okay, or activities, and hence seem to have a less arbitrary connection. And that this thing we talked about, onomatopoeia, okay, or onomatopoeic words. We talked about that in our last lecture, okay. But these words are very limited, and it's not applicable to every item we name around us. Productivity is another property of human language. Productivity is the property of language that allows users to create new expressions, okay? Also called creativity or open-endedness. There is no limit. If we have something new, if we create something new tomorrow, certainly we need to give a name to it. So we will create a name. We will produce a name, okay? It's linked to the fact that the potential number of utterances in any human language is infinite. There is no limit to the words. So I may now produce a sound for something that I intend to create. If I am a scientist and I want to create something new, I may, combine some speech sounds, okay, together, and call it and use these sounds or sound combination as a name for the thing I want to create. For example, if I am to create a bicycle that with wings, it's not a plane but bicycle, flying bicycle, but I may give it a name which is completely new. Bao, well, bao is we saw that as a theory, but I may say it bao yu. Okay, so a completely new name that it doesn't exist by now. But once I have the product I intended to create or to discover, I assign a name to it. So with our with our limited sounds or vocal sounds, okay, we may create an infinite, okay, words or utterances. So the communication systems of other creatures do not appear to have this type of flexibility. Most of other creatures do not use different sounds. Well, the dogs of centuries ago used it to produce the same sounds. Dogs in America and dogs in Africa nearly produce the same sounds. Okay, so these sounds are limited. They cannot really produce other sounds more than they are using now. Okay, nor does it seem possible for creatures, as the example of dog I gave, okay, to produce new signals, communicate novel expressions or events. So if it is the first time for a dog to see a plane, that dog would not produce a special sound for that plane. So the sounds produced by creatures in general, and the example, the dog is just an example, okay? So is very limited. Opposite to the human language, which is productive and creative. So the limiting feature of animal communication is described in terms of fixed reference. So this is the opposite expression, okay, for productivity, a property of a communication system whereby each signal is fixed as relating to one particular object or occasion. Okay, so if there is no new sounds or vocal utterances, okay, so we call that fixed reference. Another characteristic of the human language can be described as cultural transmission. Okay, so from the subtitle you can understand that it has a relation with human culture, okay, or culture, and the transmission, okay, through culture. Cultural transmission is the process whereby knowledge of a language is passed from one generation to the next or to another. Okay, we acquire a language in a culture with other speakers and not from parental genes. Okay, so we have seen during last course that one of the theory was looking for the gene or the language gene, okay, which is responsible for the production of language. Maybe we will see later that well, to a certain extent, we are human beings that human beings are really equipped with something that enables them to acquire and produce language, but we don't have the ability, okay, to produce language if we are not in a cultural environment, if we are not in a society, because as we have discussed that during last lecture as well, that if we isolate, okay, human babies, okay, for especially the first period, okay, the first years of their lives, so they won't be able to acquire language. So if it is inherited by parents, normally, even if we isolate babies would be able to speak language. But the proof that they are not able to produce or to acquire language, it is a very it is an excellent proof that language is not inherited genetically. Okay, it is clear that humans are born with some kind of predisposition, okay, mechanisms, okay, or what will be called later by Chomsky language acquisition device. Okay, we are pre-deposited by this device, this ability, okay, to acquire and produce language, but not outside cultural environment. The general pattern in animal communication is that creatures are born with a set of specific signals that are produced instinctively. So this is different, just to explain this, and which is in this part, it is this part is related to animals. Okay, so different to human beings, okay, who are unable to acquire or produce language when they are isolated. Other creatures, okay, will produce the same, okay, sounds, okay, even by being isolated. So if we take, for example, a dog away from a dog community, we make a dog isolated. Well, for example, if we make a dog live with sheep, he will not produce the sounds produced by sheep. He will produce the same sounds as dogs. This is a proof that other creatures are born with a set of specific signals. Okay, they inherit that genetically, opposite to human beings. Okay. Unlike animals, human infants or human babies growing up in isolation produce no instinctive language. It means that it would be impossible for them to produce or to acquire, maybe with great difficulty, okay, any other language. If they if they live in isolation for special periods, mainly when they are infants, and this may go up to 6 years, okay? Duality is another characteristic and another property of a human language. Duality is a property, okay, of language whereby linguistic forms have two simultaneous levels of sound, production and meaning, also called double articulation. What does this mean? So it is like a coin with double faces, okay? So one face is limited to separate, okay, sounds, and the other face is when we combine sounds. For example, if we take the sound R, E, S, okay, as individual sounds, these sounds have no meanings, okay? In particular combination, if we combine the three sounds, we will get car, C-A-R, but the C is pronounced car, okay? So if we combine these three sounds, which are meaningless, the combination gave a meaning, car, okay? We have another level producing a meaning that is different from the meaning of the combination, arc. So if we switch places of separate sounds, we will get another meaning, okay? So at one level we have distinct sounds, r, k, and at another level we have distinct meanings. If we this is according to the combination of these sounds, okay, if we move the sounds from one place to another, okay? So that's what is meant by the duality property or the duality characteristic of human language. The duality of levels is, in fact, one of the most economical features of a human language. Economical, it means with a limited, because for English language, for example, we have limited distinct sounds. The sounds of English language are limited. They have a special number. We have special sounds. We cannot produce, for example, the English language do not have some sounds which exist in Arabic, or Arabic have some sounds which do not exist in English. For example, we cannot produce words in English that contain the sound kha. Okay? So there is no kha in English language. So the sounds of English language, as the sounds of other languages, are limited. But with this limited number of sounds, we can produce an unlimited, okay, number of words. Okay? We are capable of producing a very large number of sound combinations, the words, as I said, which are distinct in meaning. Among other creatures, each communicative signal appears to be a single fixed form that cannot be broken down into separate parts. For example, the sounds produced by, let's go back to the example of dogs, okay, so are not, cannot be divided. It's not like human language, in which we can divide the sounds for one word into separate sounds and shift them from one place to another. So this is impossible with other, okay, creatures' system of communication. Well, we come to nearly the end of this lesson, since we have seen that human language have certain characteristics, and we have mentioned 5 of them, 5 properties of a human language. Okay, it seems that compared to other creatures, it seems that these properties are unique. Okay, communication system, unique for the human language, special for the human language. quite different from the communication systems of other creatures, then it would seem extremely unlikely. So for the moment, the other creatures do not have these properties. So if we say that the other creatures do not possess these properties in their system of communication, it would seem extremely unlikely that other creatures would be able to understand it. So if they do not have these characteristics, so talking to animals would be very difficult, because they do not have the main characteristics of human language. Some humans, however, do not behave as if this is the case. We can find some people talk to horses, talk to dogs, talk to cats, and the cats, the dogs, and the horses react to the language produced by human beings. They think that these animals or these creatures understand our language, and which is not really the case, because with these examples we know very well that animals react to a sound without understanding. This reaction is based on stimulus-response behavior. So for the moment, if we get an animal for the first time, if we talk to a dog for the first time and we tell him, we order him to sit down, certainly that animal would not obey, would not react to our language. But we train that dog. Whenever we give him that order, whenever we produce that sound, and he obeys to that sound, he fulfills what we ask him to do, we reward him. We give him a piece of meat, for example. So whenever we talk to animals, we should think about the stimulus response behavior. There is, after all, a lot of spoken language directed by humans to animals, apparently under the impression that the animal follows what is being said. And this is not the case, as I have been explaining. If it seems difficult to conceive of animals understanding human language, so if we say that, if we are convinced to a certain extent that animals do not understand our language, then logically, and it is obvious, that these animals will be very difficult for them to produce our language. So then it appears to be even less likely that an animal would be capable of producing human language. After all, we do not generally observe animals of one species learning to produce the signals of another species. If it is the case that animals can learn or can acquire our language, so by logic, logically speaking, if we raise a dog with sheep, normally that dog should learn the language of that community, the sheep community. But this is not the case. So that will be the end of our course, but for a moment I would like to remind you about my email, which is activated, and as you can have it on this slide, it is hamari@kfu.edu.sa. As for the mobile number, I'm still waiting for it. As soon as I get it, you'll be provided. Thank you very much, and see you with the next lecture. Assalamu alaikum.